Hi, Andy XL back with another FIFA 2026 World Cup podcast on the day of the third place playoff that nobody really cares about, and neither set of players would probably want to play. They'd probably just prefer to go home, but having to play it, they will try and win it. But who knows what their motivation levels, health, fitness levels, etc., how much they're going to put into the game, how much it really matters to them. So, in that sense, if they don't have that real care about it, why should I? So I'm not going to preview it, basically. I'm just going to bypass it. And instead of looking at that game, I'm going to look at England's squad and how they performed in this tournament. So I'll do it in squad order from 1 to 26, and I'll also finish off with a little piece on the manager. Um, and in grading this, 5 is average, below 5 is obviously below average, above 5 is above average. So 6 would be above average, 7 would be good, 8 would be very good, 9 would be excellent, 10 would be like you're the player of the tournament. So let's have a look at them. Number one, then, Jordan Pickford. Now, he had a couple of good games and a couple of indifferent games. Made an error or two that cost a goal or two. So, overall, it was probably an average tournament for Pickford. So, I'm giving him a 5. Um, you know, for England to have gone deep in this competition, I think we'd have needed to see a 7 or 8 Pickford, and we didn't see it. So, he gets a 5. So, number two in the squad was Ezri Konza. Um, he came into the tournament. Would he start? Would he not start? Probably he was going to start. He did start most games, even filled in at right back, and in that Mexico game was really, really good. So I've given him a 6, above average, but not outstanding. As he you know as he nailed down a starting position for England for the next couple of years and going into the next Euros. Well, he's given himself a chance, but he's 28 now. He'll be 30 by the Euros and 32 by the next World Cup. So, he's one that you would have hoped would have said, right, that's my position for the next 2, 4 years. But he hasn't really done that. But he did have a decent tournament, so I've given him a 6. Nico O'Reilly, um, I've given him a 5. Now, he's a young player. He's going to be around for years to come. But he came into this tournament as, Man City's left back with an opportunity to say, right, I'm going to nail down this position and I'm England's left back for the next 5 to 10 years. And he hasn't really done that. So he did okay. He's had some reasonable games. But again, I'm going to say it's been an average tournament for him. I'm going to give him a 5. Bit disappointed in Essendon because I would have hoped to see a 6 or 7 tournament from a young left back looking to nail down that position going forwards. He even wasn't picked to start the last game, so that says its own thing really. Right, Declan Rice was number 4 in the squad. Now, Rice has suffered with injury and illness through the campaign, and he was a player that you would have looked at, one of those 4, 5, 6 players that were going to carry England to a World Cup win. And because of the injury and illness and just general fatigue from a long season with Arsenal, he wasn't able to do that. So whereas we needed an 8 or 9 Declan Rice, I think we got a 6. There were a couple of games where he contributed significantly, created goal chances. Um, even the goal in the semi-final, he was instrumental in breaking forward and providing the ball for Morgan Rogers to cross. And he did that in an earlier game as well, something similar, running the length of the field to provide a ball for Saka to cross. So he's had a couple of good moments, but one or two decent games, particularly early in the tournament. But he hasn't really sustained that throughout and hasn't been able to because his body's not allowed him to. So I've given him a 6. John Stones was number 5 in the squad. Now, another 6 here. Stones is 32 now, so whether he's around for the Euros and certainly for the next World Cup at 36 is highly questionable. He might make the next Euros, but and really, having not played any football all season, he came in and as the tournament progressed, he got better and better. And there were a couple of games where came on in Mexico, and then from there on, where his abilities to experience and communication skills really came to the fore, and he really did show up with his performances as well. So even though he got limited playing time, I've given him a 6. The number 6 was Mark Gahey. Now I've given him a 7. I don't understand why he wasn't picked from the very first game. For me, he's England's best centre half, and in this tournament, he showed he's England's best centre half. I thought he played really well when he played. Um, held that left side, and that's his position, and it should be going forward. He's 26 now; he'll be 30 at the next World Cup. So the next two tournaments, really, the Euros in 2 years' time, and then the next World Cup, he's pretty much going to be in his prime. So this is the time for Gahey to really step up and say, "I'm one of not England's best centre half. I'm one of the best centre halves in the world." But he had a good tournament here. I think he did okay. I'm giving him a 7. He was one of England's better players in the tournament. The number 7 was Bukayo Saka, who, a bit like his Arsenal teammate Declan Rice, but even more so, was unable to play the part we really wanted him to. We were looking for Saka to be an 8 or 9 in this tournament. He's that good that that's what we were hoping for from him. But his injuries, Achilles issues, um, didn't allow him to play much part in the tournament. When he did play, he showed flashes of what he can do. So he gets a 6. Um, Elliot Anderson was the central midfield partner for Declan Rice. And as Rice struggled, Anderson has continued his rise. His emergence as one of the really strong performers in this team was notable. And I thought he was magnificent through this tournament. Really, really good. So I've given him an 8. He's 23 now. He'll be 27 at the next World Cup. So he's another at the next World Cup, might be in his prime. And he's going to need to be one of England's key players for the next two tournaments. Harry Kane, obviously 6 goals, started the tournament really well, faded a bit towards the end, didn't really show in the semi-final, so which was when England really needed him to. So he's 32 now. Again, a bit like John Stones, might make next Euros, but having much impact in the next World Cup at 36 has got to be questioned. But in this tournament, um, you know, his first start to the tournament was just outstanding. 6 goals. He was in contention for the Golden Boot. So I've given him an 8. Jude Bellingham. Excuse me. Jude Bellingham was England's player of the tournament for me. 23 now, be 25, 27, 29 at the next three tournaments. So really the next three tournaments are when we should be seeing the absolute best of Bellingham. But if he's going to be better than he was here, he's going to be tremendous. Absolutely superb world star. And he already is a world star. And I gave him a 9. To get 6 goals from a non-striking position was fantastic. And he was all over the pitch as well when he was required to. He gave absolutely everything. So a 9 for Bellingham. Marcus Rashford, giving him a 5 average. He was in competition with Anthony Gordon for that left-sided role and lost out in that competition. So that can't be considered to have had a good tournament. But when he did play, he did okay. Right, the next three in squad order are Trevor Chalobah, Dean Henderson, and Jordan Henderson. Now, neither of these played, so you know they get a not applicable basically. So there's not much to say about them. Chalobah, what I would question is why was he in the squad? We had plenty of depth there anyway. So, we could have picked a midfielder instead, the likes of Gibbs White or Adam Wharton, could have been picked instead. And that would have given us an opportunity to give Declan Rice some more rest and maybe get higher levels of performance out of him. And even Elliot Anderson could have been spelled. So I question that. Dean Henderson, obviously backup goalkeeper, might have got a game if Jordan Pickford had had another bad game rather than came on a bit better as the tournament progressed. But nothing to say there. Jordan Henderson is another one. He might well have come in to help provide relief for Anderson and Rice, but then he fell over an advertisement hoarding, broke his ankle or wrist or whatever. It wasn't his ankle, sorry. I don't know what I'm on about there. But so he wasn't able to play any part. Um, Dan Burn, came off the bench a couple of times and did what we expect a huge, great lumping centre half to do, deal with crosses. And he did it against Mexico, not so much in the semi final, didn't really play an awful lot. He's 34 now, So this is probably his last tournament, his one and only tournament with England. So I've flirted between a 5 and a 6. I ended up giving him a 6 because I think he actually did slightly above average when he did play. Kobe Mainu is 21 now. He's going to be 25 at the next World Cup. So another young player you would have hoped would emerge in this tournament, but instead he went completely unused, and the manager just ignored him when and chose to play Nico O'Reilly and Reece James in the centre of midfield when he made substitutions rather than bring Mainu on, which has to be a worry. And again, if he's picked him and then not used him, I'm sure the manager's thinking, maybe I got that decision wrong. I could again, Adam Wharton, Gibbs White could have gone. I know you people are going to mention other names. Could have added Alexander Arnold, Cole Palmer, Phil Foden, all those names. But if you're going to take a player and then not use him, you've basically admitted to yourself, I picked the wrong person there because I didn't want to use him. So not applicable for Mainu. Morgan Rogers, few substitute appearances. One's not nothing to send the Rockets over the barriers, as it were. Um, did really provide some relief for Jude Bellingham, but showed flashes when he came on. So he gets a 6. Um, Again, could he have been used more to give Bellingham more rest in a few games where towards the end, we could have got like 60, 90 minutes rest for Bellingham in there somewhere if he'd been more Tuchel had been more willing to use Morgan Rogers. But he did well when he came on, so he gets a 6. Anthony Gordon is one that got stronger as the tournament went on. Great energy levels, gave it everything he had. Um, Won that battle against Marcus Rashford at a left-sided position. Will be 29 at the next World Cup, so he's got a bit of time on his side, coming into his prime, you might argue now. So I gave him a 7. Ollie Watkins, very little, only a few minutes play. Again, I question them. These players like Rogers, Watkins, and others. They're the Mainu. They're the type that you've got to have enough confidence in them to be able to rest your starters to get the best out your starters. The likes of Rice, Bellingham, Kane, and Watkins. He obviously didn't have enough confidence in to do that. So not applicable. Noni Madueke. This was a disappointing tournament for Madueke. He got the opportunities to start due to Saka's injury issues, and basically provided very little from when he did have his opportunity and was subbed off regularly. So a 4. Eberechi Esse of Arsenal. Again, very little playing time, and you'd like to think, like Morgan Rogers, he would have been used more to help relieve the likes of Bellingham. Um, so when he did come on, the odd flash, but nothing really to speak of. So a 5. The next two, Ivan Toney and James Trafford, barely played. Tony, it always appeared, was clearly picked just for penalty shootouts, and then England didn't have one. So, made his selection void, really. And you got asked a question, you could have picked a player like Cole Palmer or Gibbs White that is perfectly good at taking penalties, i.e., it might not be as brilliant as Tony, but they're very good penalty takers. And they could have been picked and provided more of a role in this squad. James Trafford, another goalkeeper who didn't get a chance to play. Will he get a chance going forward? He's going to be 27 at the next World Cup. So the next 2 World Cups are where we would expect Trafford to appear more. Reece James, I give him a 5. Um, did okay at right back, did okay in midfield. Mm, when we expected him on set pieces and things like that to deliver, didn't really do it. So a 5. Jed Spence, I'll give him a 7. To win that left back roll away from Nico O'Reilly, says he must have done okay, and he played in multiple positions. And when he came on as a sub, sometimes his energy levels were terrific, really good going forward. Some defensive issues still. awareness and communicate. I think his communication really is questionable. If you go back to the first game against Croatia, their first goal, when he was doubled up on the right hand side, and nobody came over to help him. Well, that's partly on the people inside him, but it's got to be on him to be screaming at people. Hold on a minute, I'm in trouble here, and he didn't. And a bit the same with the goal in the Argentina game, where he valiantly went out to tackle Messi and then couldn't get back up because he'd strained something, and Nico O'Reilly wasn't there to help him. He needed at that time, he needed to be telling people, "I need help here." So communication issues and some defensive issues in general, but going forward, very good. Good tournament, 7 for Spence. Gerald Kwanzaa, now he just had that one game where he was forced into action at a right back, um, which he can play, but he's not his primary position, and was doing pretty well in that game until he gets sent off. So when you have one game and you get sent off, sorry, you get a 4. So overall, no player got below 4, but not enough got above 7. I've got 7 non-applicables. So there's 7 players really that played no part in this tournament out of the 26-man squad. That's nearly a third of the squad. I know 2 of them are goalkeepers, but then all right, let's take them out. 5 out of 24. It's getting on for a quarter of the squad that didn't play any role. So the squad selection's got to come into doubt. 2 players got below 5. They were Madueke and Kwanzaa. 5 have average tournaments. 6 were above average. 3 were good to very good. 2 were excellent, and 1 was exceptional in Jude Bellingham, who is the star player of the tournament. Now, finally, let's have a quick talk about the manager. I'm giving him a 5. Started the tournament really well, built a team. That's the point we've got to remember here, is that collective will to win that was on display throughout the tournament comes initially from the manager and the coaching setup. Now, his squad selection did create that because he kept out players who he didn't think would fit that role and might cause rumblings behind the scenes. Well, I'm not casting aspersions on them, but I think that was in Tuchel's thinking. So he built the squad. He started the tournament well. He made good substitutions generally throughout the tournament. Just that final game where he completely blew it, in my opinion. So, whereas he would have been on for a 7 before the last game, that last game, he was brought in to get England over the line in tournaments, and he failed to do it on his first attempt. So he gets a 5. So overall for England, I would say this is about a 6 tournament because they've been above average. They've made the semi-finals. They've done well, but doing well isn't good enough. They need to now. They've been in the last 8 of the last 5 tournaments. They now need to start winning tournaments, and they didn't fail to do so here. So that's why they don't get anything more than above a 6. So that wraps up my tournament squad review of England. I mean, if you're going to ask me what's going to happen in the third place game tonight, I just think there'll be goals, and France will probably end up winning it if they feel that anywhere near their strongest lineup. So that's it for me for today. I'll come back with a preview of the final tomorrow. See you soon.